Hi, and welcome back. This is Illogical Llama, and today I will be going over organelle homeostasis as well as active transport. So you see before you two eukaryotic cells, an animal cell and a plant cell. Okay? These are on here because you're going to have to be able to determine the organelle and its function based on the type of cell that it's located in. So identify organelle and function by cell type. Okay. So for example, if there's a question on the test that is asking about the cell wall, you need to know that the cell wall is found only in the plant cell. Or if they're talking about the lysosomes are found in both. Or centrioles. Centrioles are found only in animal cells. I do also want you to note and remember that the organelles are constantly working together in order to keep the cell alive. So this is just a little comic, hopefully grasping the fact that they are working together. So a couple of organelles that are dependent on one another and that are constantly working together are the mitochondria and the chloroplast. They're constantly going to work together. The nucleus and the ribosomes. The ribosome and the ER. The ER and the Golgi. The nucleus and lysosomes. So you can see that there are lots of things working here together. Those are just a few of the ones that are constantly working together that you need to be aware of and be able to notice their connection. So you had a homework assignment where you had to read the symptoms of these different cell patients and determine which organelle was malfunctioning. So I do want to take a moment and go over those dealing with cellular homeostasis. So with patient 1, a couple of things that you should have noticed to be able to identify the organelle. Patient 1 said he's feeling run down, lacks energy, he feels blah, and really wants to get back into running, swimming, and riding his bike. The only organelle that deals with energy is your mitochondria. So patient number 1 would have had a malfunctioning mitochondria. Patient 2, what you should have noticed, thirsty all the time. Cytoplasm feels thick. Cell wall feels dried out. Cell membrane is cracking. She doesn't know how much longer her organelles will last before they shut down. So there is something going on with the water, drying out, cracking. The one that is the organelle that supports and stores water, your vacuole. Patient 3, not able to get his organelles moving. He directs them for their normal activities, but no one seems to respond. Ribosomes malfunctioning, lysosomes refuse, nucleosomes strike. None of his organelles are cooperating. The nucleus is the control center. If the control center is not working, nothing's working. Patient 4 talked about being cloudy-headed and left in the dark. She feels blue, but is not her normal color. Hungry all the time. Happy and bright. Hard time seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. The only organelle that could sufficiently keep a cell fed and that is distinguished by the color that it is, bright and happy, photosynthesis, chloroplast. Patient 5, unwelcome visitors. Golgi has been vandalized, taken all the ribosomes off of his rough ER, stuffed them in the nuclear pore, put up no trespassing sign, does not feel safe in his own skin. the gatekeeper, what allows things in and out, your cell membrane. And then the last one claims his body has not been cooperating with him. He has to use a cane for support because he's not able to stand upright. Body gets smaller and squishes his organelles. Drinks too much, his body swells to the point of bursting. He wants more structure in his life. Okay? The organelle that provides the most structure is your cell wall. Some of you may have put cytoskeleton here, and I will accept this, okay? But the cell wall is the most accurate answer for that. All right, so on to active transport, cell membrane, and the stuff that we're talking about at the end of the week. Okay? So this is a drawing of the drawing that I had on the board, but hopefully it's a little bit more clear. Okay? So the cell membrane, which is also called the plasma membrane, okay, controls or regulates what enters and exits the cell to maintain homeostasis. Okay? So the yellow are representing our phospholipids. And if you look in the upper right-hand corner, the hydrophilic head, which loves water, the hydrophobic tails, fearing water. So they arrange themselves in a tail-to-tail fashion. So you have your phospholipid bilayer. The area that is lined in orange is your non-aqueous environment, meaning that there is no water, where inside the cell and outside the cell, you have your aqueous environment. Okay? Keep in mind that the cell membrane is fluid and flexible, but is also self-healing. If something punctures the cell membrane, the majority of the time the cell membrane can heal itself. Also, don't forget that embedded throughout the cell membrane are different carbohydrates and proteins and cholesterols. So we have that terminology that's called the fluid mosaic model. Okay. As for active transport, okay, this is what we talked about on Friday. Active transport is the one that needs energy, and normally in the form of ATP. Okay. We have technically three different types of active transport. Endocytosis, where we're taking materials inside the cell. Okay. And we have exocytosis, which is releasing materials outside the cell. Okay. Both of these are vesicle movements, okay, and they never actually cross the cell membrane. Because they form the vesicles. Whereas protein pumps are membrane pumps, and these are what are going to have ATP attached to them in order to move and pump those materials through. And again, the one you need to be familiar with are the sodium-potassium pumps. Okay? And again, huge. You need to know that these require energy. All three of them. Okay? So in this diagram, you have a drawing of active transport, particularly protein pumps. Okay? So if you will note that up here on the top, this is an area of low concentration. And if you follow your arrow down the center of that protein, okay, we have our ATP. So we know that it's active, and our arrow is pointing down. If we look at the dots, this is high concentration. Okay. The movement is going to be from low to high, okay, which is referred to as against or up the concentration gradient. So our movement will always be low to high for active transport. Okay? Low to high. Okay? Up or against the concentration gradient. Okay? Hopefully this helps clear up the organelle homeostasis, a little bit about the cell membrane, as well as active transport.